everyone, this is Anna with the Paint Mixer, and today we're doing a special Mother's Day mandala. So I'm here to kind of take you step by step through that process, and whether you are a mom or not a mom, this is a great opportunity to just relax and kind of just be present and just get kind of consumed in all the little dots and ornamental marks we'll be making. So you've noticed that my canvas is already painted a color, because that's a pretty easy first step, and it's really up to you what color you paint your canvas. I think it's good to make it a color. Just the white raw canvas has a different texture than the paint, so feel free to paint your canvas any color you like to start, and then let it fully dry before we do some mapping. So I have some chalk here, and this is a great idea because the mandala itself is really ornate, and it's easy to get out of alignment or out of kind of the design if you don't have a really set idea to start with. So what I do that really helps me, and it's super easy, is I just kind of take a straight edge and make some straight lines going across in all directions. And do one more, kind of like an asterisk. And this helps me in a couple ways. One, it shows me where the center of the canvas is to kind of start my design. And two, it creates equal quadrants. So it kind of helps me know where will be an even placement for dots and things. Another good thing you can use is something round if you want to kind of have circular shapes radiating out of this. So I may do a circle here. And this is all kind of free form. So unlike our traditional painting classes where everyone's doing about the same thing, this is really up to you. And I encourage you to go online and check out different types of mandalas, whether they're a traditional kind of Buddhist mandala or more decorative mandalas. There's a lot of good stuff on Pinterest and Etsy. So this is the design I'm going to start with, so just kind of showing a simple grid. So this will be where I start to place my designs. So we have some brushes here, and typically we use the bristles when we're painting, right? But also for dot making, the tail ends are really awesome for repetitive, really consistent dots. But before I start dotting, I'm going to just make a couple shapes. I really like kind of the floral mandala, so I'm going to maybe create some leaf-like shapes around the circle I have here. And again, this is like totally up to you what colors and the shapes you do. But I find just having some larger shapes helps with smaller dots on top. So think about layering too. Like, you don't have to just do one layer of lines or dots. You can do multiple layers, and it really makes it look rich and really ornate when you have some layering. So I'm just going to continue to go around, and it also helps too to spin as you go so that you have a better chance of, repeating the same shape as you go around. And I just want to remind you guys that nothing is going to be perfect, and that is what we're going for. We don't want it to be perfect because it'll just drive us cuckoo crazy. So allow yourself to, maybe make a mistake. You can always go over top of it with paint later once it dries. That's the beauty of acrylic paint. So I'll meet you back here once I have finished all of these shapes, and then we can start talking about dots. Okay, so I have all of those kind of first exterior shapes done now, but before we kind of really get into it, I just want to talk a little bit about what a mandala is and a little bit of history. So kind of originating in Buddhism, the mandala represents the universe. So typically you have layers, 8 layers, and in the center is nirvana. So you can think of your mandala practice today as just a way of being really present and maybe meditating, thinking about someone you care about, or just, taking some time for yourself, thinking about you. Maybe you have some yummy snacks or your favorite drink. I just want you to, take this as a time to relax and don't stress about, making it perfect or like mine. I just want you to celebrate the colors and just have fun getting really lost in a tiny little canvas full of dots and designs. All right, so I have this green as my start, and I think I might put some dots in the center. So using that tail end of my larger brush, I'm just going to dip it in some paint and dot. So you see how that creates just a perfect little dot? And it's pretty large too. So this can be a good base layer dot that you can then put smaller dots on top of. And know that your mark making doesn't have to just be dots. You can do, let's see, I'll do some examples. You can do little dashes and lines. So maybe around this you can just do almost like little flower petals. And it's kind of fun too to have a theme for your mandala. So I feel like mine is going to be a spring themed. I have can do some flowery colors, lots of greens, yellows, pinks, and purples. But yours maybe can be, I don't know, something like space, or it can be neutral tones, something that can match your house. Or you can just do rainbow, really whatever floats your boat. And don't be afraid to, pick up things around your house for mark making too, like toothpicks. Make a really great tiny dot. Even the tines of a fork can make some cool marks. Or if you have a leaf from your yard, that can make a really beautiful stamp-like mark of a leaf. So don't be limited to just your brushes. Have fun as you go. So I'm going to kind of get in the zone now and just keep dotting and dabbing and adding color to wherever. And I'll meet you back here when it's time for my second layer of dots. Stop. Oh, low battery, okay. Now I just want to give you a couple tips as we are kind of on our first layer. You've probably noticed that certain colors, like if you have a dark background, may not show up very well. So a good tip, a rule of thumb, is just to add a little white. So I have like some yellow ochre right here, and let's see, this one shows up pretty well. I think things like yellow, some of the blues are a little translucent too. So if you're finding that, a dot you're making, you can't really see it that well, if it's on a dark background especially, go ahead and add some white to that color, and that will really help. Also, just like nail polish, sometimes this paint needs more than one layer. So like for these little shapes I have on the end, they're still a little see-through, so what you have to do is just let it dry before doing your second coat, and that will be way more opaque and vivid. So keep doing what you're doing, and you're totally free to add shapes and lines. Like I'm just kind of freestyling here with a little bit of inspiration of like plants and nature. So got some little circle shapes, kind of like how you used to doodle on the sides of your notebooks when you were little. Kind of let your mind go there and just doodle and have fun doing repetitive mark making, and yeah, I'll meet you back here when it's actually time for our second layer. So keep doing, multiple layers on these larger shapes and then adding your dots. And then once all of that is dry, we can get our really itty bitty dots on top of these larger shapes. But nice work. So you know what? As I am getting in the zone and dotting, I'm remembering things that I should tell you, helpful tips as I, maybe make mistakes or realizing things about my own mandala. So another really important tip is just to kind of start from the center of things. So on the things where I've kind of gone from the outside in, I'm noticing that maybe they're not as even or as straight. If you start from the center and keep basing your design from that center point, things will go a lot easier. So that probably should have been one of the beginning tips, but nobody's perfect. And yours is going to be awesome whether you, like me, have kind of done things on the exterior and are going in and out. There's really no right or wrong. I just find that it is kind of easier to start from the middle. Also, don't worry about the chalk that's still visible around your design. Once everything's dry, you can just, kind of rub it off, or with a little water, rub it off. But don't worry about covering the chalk entirely. Some can peek out as you are dotting. So no worries there. And yeah, keep on keeping on. I will meet you once I have my first layer of dots, even though it's the third time I've said it. Okay, so now I have my design pretty much laid out, and it's dried at a touch. You can always speed up the drying with a hair dryer, but now that it's dry, I can start to layer on top of my larger dots with smaller ones. And I think this is a really awesome step because it not only makes it more ornate, it kind of builds up a 3D texture as you start to layer on top of your colors. So for example, over here, and this is actually dark blue even though it looks black on top of the red, I can kind of add a lighter blue in the center. Or you could, let's see, where's another larger dot on here? Like here I can do white in the center. And another trick too, if you want really itty bitty dots, is to, one, use toothpicks. Or just, you see how when I pull the paint, where's my hand? If I pull the paint off, there's that tiny little, almost like the tip of an ice cream cone. If you are just really gentle, see how small that dot can be? And it's just a really tiny, tiny touch. So with the amount of pressure that you use, you can get different sizes of dots too. So like if I just am really gentle, look how small those are. Pretty cool. So at this point, I'm just going to start to add on top of the dots I already have with even smaller dots. And it's kind of just repeat after that, continuing on until you have, the design you like. And another tip is kind of important is to step back from your mandala. Because when you step back, you may notice things you don't notice up close. Like when I step back from mine, I notice that some of my petals are a little different shaped. So I can either go back and fix them or just, accept it and move on, which I think I'll do. But I'm just going to keep dotting until this is super crazy with dots. But you guys are welcome to make yours however you like. But I just wanted to thank you for joining us on this Mother's Day especially, and for taking the time for yourself to be creative and kind of meditate on the great things in your life. So one last thing before we leave each other, don't forget to post your painting on social media and share all the beautiful things you've made.
So our Instagram is at @the_paint mixer. And anything that you have made while you've been at home, we'd love to see. And keep looking for other paintings that we'll be offering throughout this time. Thank you so much.